Welcome to this explainer. We're going to dive straight in today because we are unpacking a fascinating and honestly, genuinely critical mathematical flaw that is sitting right at the very foundation of our modern digital infrastructure. We're looking at the fundamental divide between systems that guess and systems that actually know.
So think about this for a second. What if the infrastructure holding your financial data is mathematically incapable of truth? It sounds completely wild, right? Like a paradox? I mean, we trust our banking apps, our digital ledgers, and our secure databases implicitly. But the source material we are analyzing today argues that our absolute reliance on modern computer systems is, in reality, a reliance on approximation-heavy mathematics. We are putting our absolute faith in systems that literally guess.
Section 1. The two black boxes. To really understand this, we need to look at the stark contrast between two very different kinds of black boxes. When we hear the term black box, most of us instantly think of airplanes, right? In the aviation industry, that black box records precise, exact, totally undeniable data. When there is a failure, investigators can step in and perform a strict post-mortem forensic analysis. They figure out exactly what went wrong, they fix the design, and they save lives. It is a culture of perfect accountability. But then, we have the digital black box. According to the sources, modern tech relies on a massive system of approximations and guessing. It's a closed loop that actively obscures true accountability, making that kind of rigorous postmortem forensics nearly impossible when things inevitably go wrong.
Section 2. The math of guesswork. Okay, so the real culprit here is something called floating point math, which is processed by the FPU, or floating point unit, deep inside your computer. Now, without getting too bogged down in the computer science of it all, methods used by the FPU, like the Newton-Raphson method, inherently rely on approximations. When it's dealing with complex numbers, like, say, the square root of 2, the system doesn't actually calculate an exact truth. It basically guesses, gets super close, and says, good enough. It's fundamentally non-deterministic. That means if you run the exact same complex process multiple times, you might actually get microscopic variations. It completely relies on probability, not perfect mathematical exactness. And the scale of this issue is absolutely staggering. The source material claims that 80 to 90% of current server farms, and yes, that includes the massive ones driving modern computing and all that new artificial intelligence, run entirely on this non-forensic floating point math. The vast majority of our global digital brain is wired to accept close enough as a final answer.
So what does this all mean for us? It means that if the massive infrastructure currently holding your personal and financial data relies on these floating point approximations, it completely lacks strict mathematical certainty. It's a system fundamentally incapable of processing true, 100% secure, undeniable information. Why? Simply because the underlying foundation is literally throwing darts at a board of probabilities.
Section 3. Surveillance versus forensics.
This mathematical gap is exactly what separates mass surveillance from true accountability. Picture a tennis ball flying through the air. Surveillance is kind of like tracking that ball when it's blurry and moving incredibly fast. You don't need to see the brand of the ball or the fuzz on its surface, right? You just need to know its general trajectory so you can exert control over where it lands. Forensics, on the other hand, is like stopping time. It captures a high-speed, ultra-sharp snapshot. You see exactly how the ball is spinning, the exact condition of it, and precisely where it is in space. Surveillance actually thrives on blurry, non-deterministic data. It uses that floating point math we talked about because it just needs to process massive amounts of data incredibly quickly to exert control and look for broad patterns. It doesn't care about absolute exactness. Forensics, however, demands accountability. It requires exact, sharp post-mortem data. And mathematically speaking, true forensics requires something called the ALU, a deterministic system that we are going to look at right now. Because if our society is built entirely on this surveillance model, we end up with endless observation, but zero true accountability when the system fails.
Section 4. The gambler and the surveyor.
There's this fantastic concept from the source material that really hits the nail on the head. It says, the FPU is a gambler. The ALU is a surveyor. Think about that. The floating point unit is gambling. It's playing the odds, just hoping its approximation is close enough to keep the program running smoothly. But a surveyor maps the land exactly as it is, down to the absolute millimeter.
So who is the surveyor inside our computers? That would be the ALU, or Arithmetic Logic Unit. This is a purely deterministic computing system. Mathematical certainty here is absolute. In an ALU, 1 plus 1 always equals exactly 2. There is zero guesswork. If you run a process 1 billion times on an ALU, you will get the exact same, perfectly traceable result every single time. No exceptions.
Why is this absolutely crucial for you and me? Because true accountability requires forensic precision. If our financial ledgers, our legal contracts, and our digital identities are built on the FPU gambler, we can never truly fully audit them. They just remain a black box of approximations. To have real justice and accountability in the digital age, we desperately need surveyor-level precision. We need undeniable digital paper trails based on exact hard numbers.
Section 5. Engineering True Accountability. So how do we actually fix this and move forward? Well, the sources introduce something they call the Taylor-Swift model. In traditional tech, developers and users just hand over their intellectual property and their data, right? They become trapped in systems they don't control. But under this Taylor-Swift model, the creator retains absolute sovereignty over their data. How? By using undeniable digital paper trails that rely purely on exact, deterministic mathematical foundations. By utilizing systems that are 100% transparently auditable, you retain ownership because no one can artificially alter or blur the exact ledger of your creations. The analysis lays out a pretty clear roadmap for this. Step 1, we have to fundamentally abandon that FPU guesswork for anything requiring strict record-keeping. Step 2, implement strict ALU deterministic tech. We need to get back to building text-based exact mathematical systems where the foundation is totally rock solid. Step 3, enforce true digital accountability. By doing all this, we can rebuild our digital infrastructure so it actually mirrors the life-saving accountability of the aviation black box. We can finally move away from a world of blurry mass surveillance and toward a world of pure, undeniable forensics. Which brings us to our final thought. In a world completely built on floating approximations, where massive systems are literally just guessing at the truth, will you demand forensic certainty? It's a pretty vital question to ask yourselves as we entrust more and more of our daily lives to these digital black boxes. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning the systems around you, and we'll see you next time.